Have you ever told somebody about a relationship issue that you're bumping up against and they give you the advice, don't worry about it, let the little things go, it's not worth making a big deal out of something so small? Well, that is probably some of the most common relationship advice that I hear, and it's also some of the worst and most damaging. And today, I'm going to tell you why that relationship advice of just let the little things go could absolutely wreck your marriage. My name's Nate Bagley. Thanks for joining me today, and I'm stoked to talk to you about some really interesting research around having what's called a low negativity threshold in your relationship. So, I want to start by telling you a little story. Let me pull up this little graphic here. This image accurately represents how my wife and I treat dishes in our relationship. We avoid them. We do not like doing the dishes. We don't like emptying the dishwasher. Our kitchen is almost always a mess unless somebody's coming over to hang out with us, or the rare occasion that one of us feels really, really motivated. And it always starts out, we'll have dinner and then just be exhausted from the day and leave the dishes in the sink, and then wake up, eat breakfast, leave the dishes in the sink. And then as the pile grows, the resistance to address that pile and clean it up grows with it, to the point where you go to the counters, to the cupboards to grab a bowl to eat your cereal, or a cup to get a drink, and there's like no clean bowls and no clean cups. And it turns into this like standoff of who's going to eat first, which means who's going to have to clean a dish first. And I mean, it's not always like that, but I think we can all relate to the avoidance of wanting to do the dishes. And the really interesting thing is that if you do avoid doing the dishes for long enough, it just makes the dishes, when you actually do them, even harder. They pile up, and then when you finally get around to cleaning them, it's like you have to bring out the industrial strength cleaning equipment. You have to bring out the Brillo pads and the rubber gloves and the magic erasers and the sandblasters to get all of the nasty grime and grit and encrusted goop off of your dishes, and it takes forever, and it's just not fun for anybody. Well, dishes, that giant pile of dishes, is a lot like conflict in your relationship. If you let the little things pile up and just get stacked up and push them over in the corner for too long, eventually it's going to start stinking. Eventually it's going to start to annoy you, to the point where one little thing, like one dirty cup, one dirty fork, could send you over the edge, and you could lose it. You could get really upset, and it can really take a toll on your relationship. And this is why Dr. Gottman recommends that we all have a low negativity threshold in our relationship, or basically a low tolerance for negativity. What he suggests is that there is no conflict too small, essentially, to address in your relationship. And the goal in your marriage should be to get so good at resolving conflict that it's just not a big deal to talk about these little things. It's not a big deal to bring up a dirty fork or a dirty knife and just take care of it while the sink is empty, so you don't have to deal with a giant mountain of stuff down the road. That's it. It's a huge strategy. So this advice of don't sweat the small things, let the little things go, it's not that big of a deal, don't make a mountain out of a molehill. Now, you obviously don't want to make a bigger deal out of something than needs to be made, but this idea of not addressing issues in your relationship when they come up is really, really bad advice and really damaging. So not only does it create a whole pile of resentment and frustrations and negative issues between you and your partner that go completely unresolved and can drive a wedge between you, but also it lowers our sensitivity to negativity. And what the research shows is that if you don't bring things up and you just say, it's fine, it's okay, we're fine, this is normal, that your sensitivity to things that are actually problematic goes down. And then when something does happen that is an emergency, it is something that's important, it is something that should absolutely be addressed, you've numbed yourself so much that you don't even recognize it. Which is why research shows that the average couple waits roughly 6 years after experiencing something that makes them feel miserable in their relationship before seeking outside help. 6 years. That's like breaking your arm and waiting 6 years to go to the doctor, or having a nasty pussy infection somewhere on your body and waiting 8 years to go get it checked, or 6 years to go get it checked out. Like, nobody in their right mind would do that, but emotionally, we do it all the time in our relationships. A breach of trust comes up, or somebody says or does something that's really harmful to the relationship, or there's habits that are being formed that are not doing our relationship any good. And because we have conditioned ourselves to be okay with bad behavior, that kind of bad behavior has become the norm, and we just let these things go without talking about them, then you're suddenly willing to tolerate misery for much longer than any rational and reasonable person should. You do not want to live in a marriage of mutual toleration. That is not why we sign up for marriage. When we get married, like the ideal situation is that you want to make your partner's life better by your being a part of it. And at the bare minimum, you at least want to not make it worse. And when we don't have a low negativity for threshold in our a low threshold for negativity in our relationship, when we let the little things go, when we don't address problems as they come up, we're essentially allowing ourselves to settle for a miserable marriage of mutual toleration. And so if you really want to have an awesome marriage, something that the marriage masters have in common is that they have conditioned themselves to repair the hurts that they cause each other. They apologize. They have the skills to bring up and talk about issues that are bothering them. In the previous video, we talked about the soft startup, and that is a great set of skills to have to bring up something that might be bothering you in a way that doesn't cause your partner to withdraw or get defensive. And there's several other skills that we'll talk about on this channel down the line. If you want to subscribe, I'll tell you all about them. That would be a great thing to do for your marriage today. And the idea here is to equip you with the skills that you need to manage conflict like a pro, so that these disagreements that you have don't take days or weeks to resolve, that they can be resolved in hours or even minutes, because you've gotten so good at it. So this is definitely a skills thing. This is definitely something that most of us are not naturally gifted at. But as we practice dealing with these issues, having a low threshold for negativity becomes something that you look forward to, because one of the best things that comes from conflict is making up. You get to strengthen your bond, strengthen your trust, show each other that you're going to be there no matter what, and the intimacy deepens and things just get so much better. So I want to invite you to have a low negativity threshold in your relationship. And if you want to learn more about things that you can do to strengthen your relationship, make sure you subscribe, and I'm going to link to a video over here in the corner that will help you manage conflict much better. Yeah, I'm glad you joined me today. Thanks for tuning in.